The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome. I'm your sage host, Ingwen speaking, and we are inviting our speaker, Mr. Charles Cheng, for today's webinar. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar as we discuss about the key topic, get actionable insight across your business with Sage 100 intelligence reporting. What you will be getting for today's webinar, you will be learn to create and automate and distribute the report and dashboard to your business stakeholder. And not only the presentation, we're also going to have a demo built in, including in this webinar session. So please stay tuned to learn about it. At the same time, after we end the webinar, you will be receiving a survey, a video for today's webinar, and presentation. And we will appreciate if you complete that and provide your feedback to us so that we know how to optimize for the next webinar that we plan out in September. So now I'm going to pass the airtime to Charles, who will be walking us the webinar topic today.
Thank you, Lynn. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Charles Cheng. I'm going to turn off my camera in a short while so that I don't lag, because I do understand some of you guys are connecting in from overseas countries, not only in Singapore. The title here of the topic here is called Sage Intelligence Reporting, and you can see here it says session 1 of 2. What that means is that this session will have a second part sometime in September, where we will showcase the advanced features of Sage Intelligence Reporting. So let's get started. Okay, before I begin, like I said, in part 2, we will cover some interesting topics called data containers. And we're going to explain a little bit of data containers later on so that you know why or what is the reason why you might want to attend the second session. We'll also be looking at how to create consolidated and union reports. Now, I think there are quite a number of you who have submitted some responses before this seminar that talks about what they would like to see. Unfortunately, there were, I think, 100 over responses, and I don't think we can actually cater to all those ideas. When I analyze the questions and responses, you see people who want to do consolidation. I'm going to explain more later on. But remember, this is not a tutorial, so if you are already using Sage Intelligence Reporting, don't worry, don't need to fire up your laptop to follow step by step. It's not a workshop. However, we're going to be recording this and sharing this with you guys. Now, along the way, there'll be a lot of questions, even during the session or even after the session. Don't worry, we suggest that you will send in your questions to us, and we're probably going to be able to respond to you separately on it. So what is actually Sage Intelligence and how we're going to run the reports and how to edit and create reports will be covered in this afternoon session. Notice that at the bottom there, I say this session is not about teaching you Microsoft Excel. Yeah, some of you may have heard that Sage Intelligence Reporting is actually sitting on top of Microsoft Excel, basically an add-in, and therefore you're expecting maybe some Excel training sessions here, but I think that is not what we want to do. We assume that you guys have at least some basic Excel knowledge, and that is more than sufficient to get started. And the other thing that we want you to bring along with you after this course is that all the report layouts that you will create using this tool, they are actually going to be saved as Excel templates. So for some of you who are familiar with Excel template, you know what I'm saying. But for those who doesn't know, Excel templates are basically formats that you can save, such that at runtime it will take the latest data that you have fed into Excel to represent the output again. So what is Edge Intelligence Reporting? Now I have a lot of boxes here, right? So I don't have time to go through all the boxes, but I intentionally put it up there because it is a placeholder for all the things that I think makes Edge Intelligence Reporting very unique as a product. So I just want to make sure that you guys have a full understanding of all this. But I'll touch on a few key ones, right? So the ones that are marked in yellow are the ones that I think I would like to touch a little bit on. So essentially, it is a reporting tool that can talk to any ERP application or any databases that is ODBC compliant now. If you are not familiar with the term ODBC, don't worry. It is basically a Microsoft component that allows your accounting software to access the, right? So for example, Sage 300, when you talk to your Microsoft SQL Server database, it's going through ODBC. Essentially, you just need to know that there is something that is used, but you don't have to worry about the technicalities around it. The product comes shipped with a lot of standard reports, or what we call out-of-the-box reports. That's important because we don't believe that a product that is offered to customers should be just a tool with no solutions provided. So these out-of-the-box reports will be usable on day one. So literally, when you install this product, within half an hour, you should be able to produce things like balance sheet, income statement, and a whole bunch of analytical reports that comes with the product itself. It leverages on your Microsoft Excel skill. So if you already have some Excel knowledge, right, you are perfectly tuned to do this, right? But for those people who say, but I'm not too good with all the V lookup and H lookup and so on, don't worry. The use of those functions or commands are really not really necessary unless you really need to do something very unique. Otherwise, most of the things are automatically handled for you. It does have the ability to consolidate multiple databases, and that's important. So if you are operating a group of companies and you always want to see a total picture of your business financial position across all the companies, consolidation is obviously a challenge, right? Because the standard report writing tool that we provide in the product called Statement Designer is essentially a single database or single company type tool. So Sage Intelligence Reporting will be able to allow you to overcome that weakness. It does comes also with a very unique component called Unique Financial Reporting, or we refer to as Report Designer in the product. Later on, when you look at it, you can agree with me that this is a very unique feature because it understands accounting and financial reporting, right? So much to the extent whereby you, with a single mouse click, you can actually ask the system to generate for you a balance sheet or income statement report, and he knows what is happening. Even the formulas or calculation that is provided in the tool itself, you find that they are all tuned to financial reporting. So if you want the actual for period 1, you want a budget for period 5, you know, these are things that you don't have to worry about how do I get this data. You just choose that value and the system will just place it into the report. Of course, if you are already a Sage 300 user, it is definitely a product that's integrated to your accounting system. So don't have to worry about that it is not going to be integrated. Uniquely, it also comes with what I call starter pack licenses. I'm going to cover that in a little bit more detail because for those of you that are using Sage 300 now, you are actually entitled to some of these licenses and you can already begin to do it. Obviously, the next question is, how do you go about doing it, and how come I don't see it in my accounting system menu, right? So we're going to cover that in a short while. So essentially, what is Sage Intelligence Reporting? It is a tool that allows you to extract data, to analyze it, and to report it. All right, so where are you going to be able to find that license if you have it installed on your accounting system? You notice here, I have on my left-hand side here says that you actually have the entitlement for one report designer module, one report viewer, and one report manager. So essentially, if you have that entitlement already installed on your Sage 300 menu system, you should be able to find in your modules menu a thing called intelligence reporting. right? For example, in this case here, I have intelligence reporting selected, and then you see there are 5 icons on my screen. But in your case, you might actually have only 4 of the 5 icons. So you probably have the report viewer, which is allowing you to actually view any report that you have created. You have the report manager that allows you to create as well as to view reports that you've created. And then you have the security manager for you to define access rights, and then of course the license manager for you to apply the licenses uh, into the system. But the connector license may not be available to you. It is an additional license that you have to acquire. Now we cover this connector in the session 2, which is the part 2 of this seminar. And after that session, you can choose for yourself whether you think you need to actually opt for this connector license. But I think without the connector license, you are actually using a tool that can do all things you want, but it can do the extreme ability, right? So if you want to be able to read, let's say, a new type of data in your all your reports, you want to be able to do that using a connector license. If you want to access data that your business is using, but has nothing, and you want to together with your Sage 300 data, you need a connector license. Anyway, we will talk a bit more in part 2 of this seminar. All right, so what are the key takeaways? I just want to remember these 6 items, right, that you will be able to take away with you after this. You should know that you are entitled to starter licenses to begin with, right? So if you have not seen anything like what you saw in my menu system, please contact Sage and they will be able to look up your license record to see whether you have been issued. Maybe you have not applied, or maybe they can reissue you a license or something like that, right? So do check, and if so, contact Sage. You can be able to access multiple company databases for consolidation, right? I think that is one of the many responses that we get from the survey before this seminar. You can leverage on your Excel skills. The more Excel knowledge you have, of course, the more fanciful reports you can create. But otherwise, basic knowledge of Excel should also be enough for you to create standard reports. It comes with a lot of out-of-the-box report, and we're going to be seeing some of this in action today. It has this unique financial reporting capability that we call a report designer, besides the ability to paint reports using pivot tables and charts features inside Excel itself. Now, last and not least, this is a very mature product. It has been in the market for many, many years. So if you have just heard about it for the first time, even though you've been using 300 for many years, right? Just bear in mind that it is not something new. We are not launching a new product here today. It is a product that's been around. We're just wondering why in times like this, people are not using it to actually improve their end user reporting capabilities. Now, because it's a mature product, of course, it has a lot of information and resources available online. We're going to cover some of them later. So before we jump into the product, I just want to give you an overview of how this product actually accesses your Sage 300 data. So you can see on the left-hand side, you have your Sage 300 databases, right? So if you have one company or you have many companies, each company typically is one database. You can also have other databases I mentioned, right? You could have your payroll data. Maybe you have some other unique application in your company, right? As long as they can be accessed using ODBC, they can be read by Sage Intelligence. And Sage Intelligence will then be able to allow you to define whether you want to access one database at a time, because single DB, or you want to do multiple databases at a time, which is consolidation. Yeah, and the report manager, which is the authoring tool of the product, will allow you to choose between these and then be able to generate the necessary output in Microsoft Excel for you. All right, with that, this is the list of things that we will be walking through this afternoon, right? So this is where we're going to get hands-on with the product and going to see the product in action for yourself, right? So you can see how we're going to write out reports. We're going to have a look at what is beneath a report. Maybe it's a bit technical, but then I think it's also interesting to know how these reports are connected together between your databases and Excel, and how we can edit reports, create a new financial report if necessary, and then talk a little bit about consolidated versus union reports. All right, so I'm going to toggle out for my PowerPoint, and I'm going to go into my Sage 300. Huh? All right, so if I started the report manager, this is what I will see. On the left-hand side of my screen, I will have what I call folders, right? So this is the standard list of folders that comes with the product when you install it. In order for you to run a report, you have to locate the report inside one of these folders. So if, for example, if I double click on inventory, I can see that there is one report called inventory master, right? When I select the inventory master, you notice on the right-hand side, it says to edit this report, you must make a copy. Now, this is important, right? We know that when we ship out standard out-of-box reports, because it is so easy to customize because it's Excel-based, a lot of people will go ahead and do something with it. And then you find that, oh, wait a minute, I think I make a mess of it. How do I go back to the original out-of-the-box layout? So to prevent you from messing up the standard ones, we make it such a way that you can never make addition to the standard reports without I'm not able to save it. Right? So you need to go and create a copy of this and then make changes to the copy. Now I'm going to show you how to make a copy of this. First of all, I'm going to add a folder. I want to put all my own report into a separate folder so I don't go and mess it up, the standard ones that come with the product. So I'm going to type here my personal folder. All right, so I have my personal folder there. Now I'm going to make a copy of this report. And to make a copy is as simple as right mouse click, select copy. Just like if you're copying some text or files from your Windows system. Select my personal folder, right mouse click, and then paste. All right, and in the screen here, it says the template file already exists. Do you want to give it a different name? Yes, I want to call it new, or my new. Oh, sorry, I think I accidentally clicked on the. All right, we'll call it my new inventory report. Okay, so with that copied there, you can see that it appears here. Notice that when I select it this time around, I have a lot of tabs on top here, right? So I have properties, and typically it will show without the advanced features, but you can turn on the advanced features if you want to see what else you can set as far as properties for the reports concerned. So normally I don't go and mess around with the properties. I'll leave it as default. I think you should leave it as default unless you have a very unique requirement to go and play around with it. Now the second tab is actually about the data that is presented to your Excel worksheet. So these are all the fields or columns that they call it. You notice that some of them are very English, some of them are not so English correct, right? Now with the container license, you can actually able to go in and change the labels. I call it them labels, right? So instead of calling ITEMNO for item no in this case here, yeah, I want to call it item number. It's spelled out in full. Or some of you who are in a different country where your language is not English, you want to make it a bit more user friendly for your users when they see this information, you might want to go and map it to your own local language, right? So for example, Thai or Vietnamese and so on, right? And then we also have ability to set filters. You notice there's a filter, there's a parameter. The difference between filters and parameters are, in the case of filters, they're all static. You actually create filters that will then set some criteria to reduce the extracted data based on certain condition that you set. In the case of parameters, you're doing exactly the same thing, but you allow the user at runtime to actually choose or specify the different values. For example, let's say you want to allow the user to choose what category to extract for the report. So you set it up as a parameter so they can specifically choose a different category to export. But if you don't use parameters and all that, right? Of course, you can still go into your Microsoft Excel and do your own filtering if you want to, right? So it doesn't matter whether you use this or not. However, if you are going to be reading a huge table of tables and that contains many rows, you do not necessarily want to bloat your Excel with unnecessary data, right? So if that is the case, you might want to filter, like for example, filter only this year and last year instead of all the years of data that you have. There's also ability to create sort and aggregate fields. So we're not going to play around with that for the moment. So we're going to go into, again here, select the report that we have copied, and I'm going to click run here. You can see the button called run. Click on run, and the report manager will then begin to start to extract the data based on the definition of that report. All right, you can see from the display on the right hand side of the screen here that it is that, and then it is going to create an Excel workbook and then start to paste the data into that workbook. And then based on the template that is used, it will format the output of the report to look exactly like what the originator of this report wants it to be seen. Yeah. In this particular case here, this report was rendered as a pivot table. So it contains a number of columns and so on. So if I click on any part of this pivot table, you can see the standard pivot table field selection panel appear on the right hand side. So this is exactly 100% Microsoft Excel pivot table, right? And because it was saved as a template, each time you run it, it will always be rendered in this particular manner. Some of you may be curious and says, how come there's only one worksheet there? So how did we get to extract data and directly make it into a pivot table? Well, we didn't, right? Because if you go to unhide, you can see there is two hidden worksheet, one called sheet one, one called parameters. In sheet one, you notice that it's actually the rows and columns of data that were extracted. So worksheet one has some very unique purpose. It is where we will place all the extracted data. So remember, because worksheet one is for that purpose, it means that it get refreshed each time you run the new report. Yeah. So no point going in here and say right mouse click, insert a column, and then says, okay, this minus this become that other value. You're not going to be a kind of changes because every time you run the report, worksheet one will be completely cleared and a new worksheet one will be created with the extracted data, right? So whatever you want to do, you have to do it in the additional worksheet that you create. So in this case here, you paint it in here. Now, obviously, some of you says, but if this particular pivot table, I can't add in a new column. I want to take this minus this, become something else. So what can I do? Well, that is where the connector module comes to play, where you can actually go in there and add in on the fly additional information. And we're going to cover that in a fair bit of detail in session 2 next month, where you're going to learn how to do this. But I'm going to just quickly show you if you want to edit this report, yeah, and so that each time you run it, it will always appear in that new manner. I'm going to go in and type in something here. I'm not going to go and change the columns here and so on. I want to retain everything as it is. I just want to key in something here, right? Just to show you the ability to actually make customization to an existing report and how it can be recreated again. Now, remember, we talk about reports are actually saved as templates. So in order to get this ABCD to be saved forever, anytime I run the report, I must save it as a template. And I don't do it within the Excel interface. To do this, I must go back to my report manager, select the report again. Yeah, this time around, I will select Save Excel Template. You see here on the menu on the top there. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to make sure that I have selected the workbook that is the workbook of interest to me. Click OK, and he will then ask me permission to clear the worksheet 2 that contains the parameters. Don't worry about the parameters worksheet because it is something that typically populated by the report manager, but it's only useful if you think that there is a necessity for you to access some of the information that is being passed over. So I have completely saved the report now. If I notice, if I go back to my Excel spreadsheet, it's now actually blank now, empty, right? Because it's actually clear out everything and it has already saved it as a template. So I can close the Excel spreadsheet. Now, if I were to rerun this report quickly, you will find that the ABCD that I type in there will be displayed. If I were to change some columns or add in some columns or whatever from the pivot table fields, obviously it will be reflecting the changes as well. All right, so you can see here the text that I type in to give you an example of how customization can be done is reproduced here, right? So whatever changes you made once you save a template will be reproduced. So it's important. You must always save your changes as template using the save Excel template function that is built into the product. We're going to take this a little bit further in the demonstration. I'm going to show you the financial reporting capability. Remember, I was talking about the report designer. I'm going to go into the designer tab. And when I expand that, you can see there are a whole bunch of reports in there as well. So you'll notice that there's also some folders called console designer demonstration, and so on, right? Essentially, what happens here is that the single database type financial reports are actually going to be placed inside this folder. The out-of-the-box consolidated ones, where you can actually choose multiple ones, will be actually available under the folder called console. All right. So if I were to go into console designer, right, it will also have its own set of reports. The unique thing about the console report is that you need to indicate to him at runtime which particular company databases you want to include, right? We're going to take a look at it in a short while, but for the time being, I'm going to just go and show you how I can run an income statement report that comes straight with the product. So I'm going to copy it again. I'm going to go to my personal folder and paste it there quickly. Okay, it will take a bit longer time to copy a report designer report than a normal report. The reason is because when you look at this thing later on, right? If I click on copy of financial income statement, you notice that instead of that whole bunch of tabs I have for my other report, there's only properties and union sub reports. So if I click on union sub report, you can see that there are about 12 sub reports. So this is what a union report is about. A union report is a report that contains multiple standard reports, right? What it means here is that if you have a sequence of reports that you want to group them together and you want them to be executed each time you run this report, you combine them into a union report. Remember, the union report is not consolidating the data. It's not taking A plus A become 2A, right? It is actually individual information. Typically, union reports, each of these sub-reports will be generated into individual worksheets inside the workbook, right? So later on, when we go and run this report, you can see there's a whole bunch of whole bunch of worksheets, each representing one of these sub-reports. Now, I'm going to run this just to show you how it behaves. So when I click on this, you'll notice it's a bit different from the other report. This time around, I'm prompted to have a parameter, right? I'm going to select all the years so that we have all this year's data in the report for us to work with. Now, some of you guys may be thinking, if you are copying a financial report, are you actually editing the report? Yes, although there is ability for you to edit the report by clicking on the design button, you can see this one next to the run button, right? I always believe that the easiest way to edit a report or to customize a report is to go and run it, because when you run it, you have data, and when you have data, when you paint the report, you can see the result of your layout. Whereas if you use a design button, there is no data. So you're actually working blind, and that is a bit more challenging to create a meaningful looking report. Now, you notice that it takes far much longer to run than the inventory master because of these 12 reports. It has to go and extract all these and populate it into the individual worksheet. Then it has to go in and render the output based on the template that the author of this report created in the instance. Now, in the inventory master report, you saw there was only one worksheet created called inventory master, and it is a pivot table. When this report finally render, you find that it actually contains a number of worksheets. So that's a reason again why this term takes a bit longer than normal, because I think the talking about it through the webinar is also using for this now rendered. You can see that it's actually showing me the instruction you in way how you can actually create a financial report, designer report. But you can see there's also three other worksheet that contains the income statement report, right? So when you are painting a report, it doesn't mean that one extraction of data only create one report. You can actually have multiple reports as long as all these reports are basing on the data coming from the worksheet one, the data that is populated in worksheet one. So if I go to right mouse click here and unhide, you notice that there's a lot of worksheet hidden, right? And each of these worksheets actually reflect the union sub reports that we talk about. Okay, the one that I think I will want to see is the actuals. And you can see in the actuals, this is where all the dollars and cents are, right? That is used to go and paint those reports. Some of those uh, some of those reports are maybe some static information that you can use to maybe make your report a bit more intuitive. For example, you want to be able to allow people to choose which division to focus on in the report. So you will probably make use of information coming from the other worksheets. All right, so I want to quickly show you how actually you can edit such a report or even to create a new one yourself. So let's say I want to create a new one. I will click on the BI Tools menu, and you can see that there's a whole bunch of icons here that is not typically found in your Microsoft Excel. This is what comes in as the add-in with our Sage Intelligence reporting. I'm going to quickly show you a few of them so that you get a feel of how powerful this report designing tool is. All right, so first of all, I want to go in and select Quick Generate. You notice that when I go into Quick Generate, I can choose either I want to quick generate one of the three stand layout that is already been pre-built into this particular workbook, right? So if I choose, let's say, the actual versus budget, and this is exactly what happened. It will go and automatically generate for me a very standard income statement, actual versus budget report. Right? It's almost like as if you're seeing a macro running in your Excel, creating a report and showing you as it happens, kind of thing, right? So that is the power of this report designer, and it allows you to build such reports with little or no effort. This report completes. Obviously, it takes a while because of the, I think, computer's power has been zapped because of the GoToMeeting. All right, almost finishing. If you're worried that this is a very slow program, I can assure you it is not. Right? If you ever use it in your own computer, I think the performance will be very much faster. I do know because I've been using this product for a while now, and I can see that it's performing well. Except that when you are talking about using it together with a GoToMeeting, it seems to be a bit slower. All right, hopefully it will complete a little bit faster now because we do have a lot of things to show. Hmm. Let me see whether there's anything running in the background that is slowing it down. Huh? Nothing extraordinary. Let me see whether I can cancel it.
Just
It takes so
maybe
long.
you cancel already?
Okay. Yeah, I think it takes too long. No worry.
Okay.
Right? It is supposed to finish in pretty quickly, but for some reason it is slow. No worries about that. Now, if you want to go and say, all right, but that layout doesn't look like what I want, right? Because you saw in the other example, right? It certainly doesn't look like what we were trying to generate in that particular report, where we have all these things in this manner. So if you are talking about you want to create something uniquely of your own, a new layout completely, click on the new layout button and you're given a wizard that allows you to do this. So I'm going to say new IS. Okay. And you're presented with a wizard. Okay. And it's very easy to go and create a new layout. First of all, you can choose the company. Right? These are some of the filter criteria that you need to pre-populate into the system. So I'm going to choose, let's say 2022 year. I'm going to have my Canadian currency. I'm going to have my currency type is functional. All right. And if okay, I think that is okay. So I want to show account detail that I want to. Now, what is interesting here is that you have three boxes here. This first box is actually the text column, which is allowing you to go and specify I want account and I want description in that column. And then in the physical column itself, you can then choose one of these possible values. You can see here, I don't even need to type anything. I just go in there and choose, right? But let's say I wanted something more fanciful. I can come in here and choose, I want to have some design ideas where it actually shows the Q1, Q2 together in that sense, right? And then I want Q3, Q4. And you can also have a spacer to go and separate things around. So if I want, I can go and move things around, maybe here, yeah. And for the rows, all I have to do is just go down to the row section. I go and select whether I want to have the income statement in this moment. Because I only have income statement option, I can then choose what I want, right? And then I can go and say, no, maybe I don't want this. Yeah, I want to have gross profit there, right? So you can see that it's quite easy for you to just go and add in what you want, and then once you're ready, you go and save this as a layout. So I'm going to click save, and the layout is saved, right? If I want to go and make some changes to what constitute the columns and so on, I can also do that. But at this moment, you can see it's a matter of choosing what you want and for it to appear. Now, all I have to do now is just click generate, and it will actually generate for me a report that looks exactly like what I just painted. Okay, hopefully it's a bit faster than all right. So you can see here, it actually generated a report, and of course you can do anything that you normally can do with Excel. Like for example, you want to change the way numbers are displayed, you just go and change it. If you want to change the year, because you actually have a number of years inside the system, so I can actually choose 2021. So the years all the same amount. Probably the sample data is not very good. Now, you could actually go and paint this report. And now, if you want to repeat this report every time somebody run this, you need to save it as an Excel template. But before we go and do that, I think I want to show you one last item before we do that. I'm going to go into a new report. And this time around, I'm going to show you how actually you can paint report using some of these options here. You can see here, I have a list function. I can say I want accounts to be displayed. And maybe I say I don't want this column, can delete them away. You notice that creating a list of accounts like this is so much easier now, right, with this method. So if I want, I can remove all these accounts that I don't need. Let's say I just want the revenue accounts. And I can also remove whatever I don't want, right? So if I want to say, I want to see the actual amount for this account side by side. So what I do is I go to formulas, and I'm going to click on actual, drag that value and place it here. So essentially what I have is actually a formula embedded into this cell here. And I need to go and change the formula here to be able to reference this particular account and maybe the period as well. So let's say I want to have period one numbers here, and I want it to be for the year 2022. Okay, my mouse is not working. Okay, I want to have period one. So if I were to do this now by selecting this, and I go and click on function, it will call up the function wizard typically found in Excel. So I can actually now go and say it's going to be for my account, and I'm going to make it absolute. I'm going to make it absolute. Mhm. Okay. I want the year to be equal to this. other parameters I need to specify. I need to enter the currency code. I can either hard code it in here. Oops, sorry. All right, so you can see here, the moment I do that, an amount is actually extracted. Something very similar to statement designer, if you're familiar with it, right? Now, if I have, let's say, period 2, 3 here, all the Excel skills that you have come to play, right? For example, I can, if my mouse allow me to move, oh, I think the formula is not right. All right, so now you can see now with this ability to paint formulas of that nature, right? Be able to use the full power Excel to do whatever is necessary. I think this one, because the account is, okay, account is supposed to be, all right, should work now. Okay, or maybe it doesn't work, right? But I think what you got an understanding is that you can make use of the power of Excel to actually paint the formulas that it create by just dragging and dropping some of these things here. So even if I want current year here, I can actually drop it here. I want period. It's actually dropped from here. I want the company name. So you can actually paint the report just like this, right? And the other one I like here is that beside the lists and formulas, you also have this thing called trees. Now, again here, some of you who may have a much more complicated organization structure and you want to be able to reflect that in your reports, you are using the account segments inside your SIG 300 to define center or whatever it is. You can actually use the tree method here to quick paint how your tree looks like and be able to use that as a condition to filter the data that you see on the report. All right, so if you want this to be safe so that it can be repeated each time someone runs a report, go back again here to your report manager and click Save an Excel report. Now, obviously, it will take a while to save such a complicated report, so I think I will skip that for now and assume that you will be able to try it out yourself at some point. Now, I just want to go into one of the uh, financial report. Let me go to one of them and see whether I can show you what I really mean here. Okay, so you notice that I've selected one called Console Financial Balance Sheet. This is one of the standard report that is for the report designer, and it is actually showing you consolidated data. That means coming from more than one database. How do you then go and tell the system which database are going to be consolidated? So when you look at all these sub reports here, each of them, you actually have an option for you to specify the database consolidation list. So you actually have to come to here, click and select the databases that you want, right? Only by choosing this and saying, okay, then you will have the two databases now going to be extracted for this account structure. So you got to go through for all the other sub-reports that makes up this financial balance sheet report. Once you have done that, you save it. Each time you run this report, you automatically would use the data coming from all these databases in your financial report, right? So that is how consolidated report works. One other example of consolidated reports is I'm going to go into my personal folder. I'm going to say add a new report. Now, here you can choose to add a standard report or a unit report. Again, like I said, a unit report is actually a grouping of standard reports. So if you want to choose unit report, you are basically going to go in there and say this standard report, and this standard report are going to be grouped as one single unit. And then when you run it, that 3 reports get executed one by one at the same time, right? But I'm just going to create a normal standard report. So I'm going to call it my name. I'm going to call it demonstration. And I have a consolidated data that I think is probably easy for me to explain what consolidation is about. So I'm going to choose that data container that I have created. It's called ICI look for one of a longer name, right? And when I select that, I can then choose what fields I want to incorporate into that report. I'm going to click OK, right? And when I come to this screen here, you notice I will again be presented with the need to go and choose the databases I want to consolidate. Now, show you in this particular demonstration here is that in the inventory module, you are able to capture statistics of inventory information. So I'm using that table that stores that information, and I'm going to combine the data from these 2 databases together, right? So later on, when we go and look at company SAM Limited and SAM2, we're going to look at the quantities and we're going to say, does it really add up automatically? When we consolidate, we're going to see it in action, right? So I'm going to go into the report and I'm going to leave everything as it is, no change. So I'm going to go click run. And let it run. While it is running, I just thought maybe I'll just show you. When I go into SAM Limited, I go into location details. I'm going to call one item so that we know exactly what is the quantity hand on that item for that location in this company. And then we're going to compare and see whether the report actually correctly picks up the values. All right, so I'm going to choose the first item here called A11030, and I'm going to scroll down for location 1. And you can see that the quantity on hand for this location 1 is 259. All right, so I'm going to look at the other company. Same thing, go into inventory control, location details. You can see for location 1, it has 166. Yeah, so in my report, we should be able to see the 2 being summed together, right? So I'll go into my Excel, right? And this is the report. Move it up a little. In sheet 2, you can see it's a parameter sheet. And you notice that sheet 1 and 2 in a new report that you create is never hidden. So you need to hide it to make sure that your users who are using your report do not get curious and start changing the values, right? So in sheet 3, this is where I want to pay my new report, right? To do that, I go back to my sheet 1. I'm going to say insert in a pivot table. Okay, so this is something that you probably will have to typing here. The table range is raw data because I want to make use of a name range rather than the absolute thing, because if you don't, each time you run the report, if there are more rows, then the new rows will never be reflected in your output, right? However, if you use a name range, then you know every time you run a new report, regardless of how many rows are extracted, it always going to pull the right numbers for you. I'm going to go into an existing worksheet. I'm going to put it into a worksheet 3. I'm going to click OK, and there you go. You have a thing like this, right? So I'm going to go in and put my company. I'm going to put my location. I'm going to put my item. And I'm going to put the quantity on hand. All right, so if you were to notice that, if I were to, sorry, I would go and filter by location. And maybe filter by item as well, so that we can straight away go into the item itself, 1003. You can see that it has 166 and 259 from SAM2, SAM Limited, and the total is 425. So you can see how consolidation works. You are allowed to create a report that actually uses a data container that actually allows you to choose more than one databases, and you'll be able to group them together in one single report. So if you were to do it differently, you put your op here and you choose your item here, you can actually get to see 425 for this item, right? So this is how consolidation works. And as usual, if you think that this is the report that you want, you can always go back to your report manager and save it. I'm not going to do that since it's not a very nice looking report for the time being. Yeah. Now let's go back to our PowerPoint. To summarize, what is unit report and what is consolidated report? Report allows you to take two separate reports that you created inside the Sage Intelligence Report Manager and then generate a single workbook with two worksheets, right? Each worksheet reflecting a single report. In the case of consolidated report, it allows you to take more than one company data, combine them, and then output was single report with a single worksheet. That's what you just saw earlier with my ICI look example. So interestingly, if you ask me what can this kind of concept be used for, I think unit reports are great if you want to create, let's say, a reporting book. You want to be able to go and create a number of reports and then you want to combine them into one single workbook and have it displayed as different worksheets. That would be great. In the case of consolidated report, it would be fantastic if you have a various group companies into a single report for reporting purposes. All right, so my suggestion to you is go and give this a try, right? It is Excel. As long as you make a copy and whatever you do, you're not going to mess up the original ship to you reports. In fact, the ship to reports can never be edited. So there is no way you can actually harm whatever has been shipped to you. So you always have a good copy of the original report. So go and give it a try. And if you hit any questions or whatever, my suggestion to you is go to Sage University to have a look up on some of the resources there. Also go to the Sage community website as well. There's a lot of information available there. Gated information coming from YouTube. There are a lot of videos on YouTube showing you all the different techniques that you can think of, right? Last but not least, of course, you can always contact Sage for answers to some of the questions that you have. All right, so what's next for you? I think if you are keen to go and see what else you can do with this data container, because consolidation is so powerful that you want to really give it a go to consolidate your information about your business to all the users in the company. Come back on September the 10th, same time for the other session. We will definitely be covering data container in that session, and we will also be examining some of the other things, like how to publish reports for your users and so on. Remember, you certainly do not want end users to go into your Sage 300, right, and use up a land pack, right, to be able to view a report. So you probably want to be able to run reports, save the output to a folder, right? And make that folder shareable to your managers so that every month they know that is a place to go to retrieve the latest copy of the reports that you have defined for them, right? All right, with that, thank you very much. Hopefully that gives you an idea of what Sage Intelligent Reporting is, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank
Thanks,
you.
thanks, Charles. We'll be sending the survey, the playback video, and the presentation for today's webinar. At the same time, please provide your feedback to us and for all the learnings and the difficulties that you wanted to ask as well. Especially if you have common question about the version for the SI, just write into advise you accordingly. But on the behalf of Sage team and Charles, thank you for joining us today, and we wish you have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.
Bye bye.